I love Dana Wright. I hope she likes Scott Parks.
Scott, she's not going to change her name again.
Yeah.
Okay, so
no, not
forget
that
about
way.
the Parks.
Not that way.
Okay, fine.
I mean, I could not imagine having a better guest for your first show here.
Oh, Scott? Yeah, he's sitting
Glad to be here, Frank.
He said,
Thanks for the
Frank,
invite.
he said, Frank, you have to ask her.
There's Just Something About Kansas City is brought to you in part by the generosity of our friends at the Cockrell Family Foundation, the Bergman family, and the Sherman Family Foundation. Thank you.
Well, this is a new beginning. Welcome to another episode of There's Just Something About Kansas City. We are in a brand new studio here for There's Just Something About Kansas City. And what a way to christen it. I'm not sure if it's going to be christened with champagne or some other liquid, but it's going to be christened.
There's my camera.
Dana Wright, Scott Parks, the radio's dynamic duo on KMBZ 98.1 Kansas City with just an incredible run that you two have had. Welcome to our brand new set.
It's good to be with you.
We're almost between two ferns.
Okay, yeah, you almost are between two ferns.
I
You're
love
exactly
it. I love
right.
it. No, it's good to see you always.
Here's the best part of today.
Yeah.
She beat you to the studio.
I was shocked.
Okay, you were shocked.
No, I know.
I about died.
I got here right at 11, and I fully intended to wait probably 10, 15 minutes out in the parking lot.
I know. I just said.
Anyone who knows me
Dana-
knows I'll say, I'm 2 minutes away. I'm 2 minutes away. I'm 2 minutes away.
That means 20.
Yeah, at least, right? And you are known as being geographically challenged. I
God,
understand.
Terribly.
Right?
I was born without whatever other people have in their brains that where you understand north, you understand things like, I don't know, any
Directions?
direction in
I
this
have a
town.
story about that.
I don't have that in my brain.
We were supposed to make an appearance one time at Pepper Jack's Grill on Shawnee Mission Parkway, just east of Flum. And we were supposed to be there at, I believe, 7 o'clock. It was like 6:30 to 8:30 or something like that. And we were going to get paid for it. We did get paid for it. And I'm waiting there with the sales guy, and it's 7 o'clock. And then it's 7:15, and I'm like, where the heck is Dana? So I call her. You know, it's a straight shot from the studios down to Pepper Jack's Grill. I call her on her phone. I said, where are you? She said, I don't know, but I know I'm near the airport. I said, how are you near the airport? It's a straight shot down Shawnee Mission Parkway. She never showed.
Yeah.
Or if you did, it was very late.
very late.
Very late.
Very late.
Gosh, yeah. And I know you have many, many stories, but you are notorious for being late. Okay.
What's funny is like the way, and I've had a lot of therapy to help me like understand the way my brain works, and a lot of creative types, is what makes work also wrecks other parts of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say wrecks. Well, it actually could. If I was in a wreck, it would wreck other parts of my life. Roaming around looking for my car downtown, where I just parked, by the way, this week. Couldn't find my car this week. I was with Kathy Nelson at the Win for KC event. Parked, went into the T-Mobile Center, came out, couldn't find my car. But it also...
No, tell them the rest. Tell them the rest.
You have to have one. You have to have one of those.
You
So
know,
she has an
car
app.
finders.
She was following herself,
There's
not
a turtle
the
and
car.
a dot, and I'm like, the dot was moving, and I thought, I've got a Tesla. The car will come to you. You can literally summon it. And I thought, well, I know it's in one of these garages.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know what it is about the way I was wired, but it is truly just the way I'm wired.
Yeah.
I've got Life 360, and I showed them yesterday. It looks like a 4-year-old with an Etch-a-Sketch.
It really did.
The lines
really
on
did.
Life 360 between what the event ended at 11 and like 11:22. I'm just crisscrossing downtown on foot in the freezing rain,
Following herself.
Following myself, trying to find my car.
Hold it. The car's moving.
Yes.
I can't catch the car.
Who's in my car? But it also allows us, me certainly, and I think you to some extent, I can juggle about 26 things at a time when I'm on the air. And do.
Well, you do every day.
Every day. Yeah.
And the interesting part for me, okay, you have a 4-hour show every day from 2 to 6. And the amazing part for me, you show up at about 1 minute to 2, okay? Yeah. And I think Scott and Sam Stevie III are in there probably doing some research, getting the story. So you show up at 2 o'clock on the dot, okay? You're gone by 1 minute to 6.
Yep.
Okay, 5:59. You're gone.
You have
Gone.
a camera in our studio? or something?
You're gone after the show. You got to get home by 6:30 to watch Wheel of Fortune.
That's correct.
So I mean, I'm
America's
wondering.
game.
There's really not a whole lot of pre-program situation, and
Yeah.
there certainly isn't any post wrap up. What do we do right? What do we do wrong?
No, barring some disaster, or people will say, like, do you work weekends? And I've always said, if he and I are on the air on the weekend, something very, very bad has happened in the United States.
Yeah, right.
We don't, it would be rare for us to work outside the parameter of the body of that show. But then I would also say, we don't sit down and we don't have charts and graphs and, other shows have these like whiteboards of
15-minute breakdowns.
15-minute breakdowns. It would destroy me to do that.
Yeah.
We tried that once. Years ago, we had a program director who wanted to see hour by hour, every 15-minute segment, what were we going to talk about? And here's the thing about the show, and I don't mean to take over, but I've had people ask me 1,000 times in the building, somebody in sales or something, they're trying to do small talk, and they say, well, what are you going to talk about today? And the answer is always the same. It could be 1:59. The answer is, I have no idea. Yeah. I really don't. And what ends up happening, this is a little bit behind the scenes, is around 2:04, 2:03, while we're in the news, I'll turn to Dana and I say, what's the lead? What's our lead today? And, obviously we'll be talking about the Super Bowl today at some point, probably right out of the gate. Same thing tomorrow. But the show is very spontaneous, and I think to take that away would hurt the show. I really do.
Yeah, well, here, and I listen. I've heard you many, many times. It is really 15-minute segments for all part. It's not really 15 minutes because you got the news, you got the commercial breaks, and you guys work about 4 minutes an hour. So it's like
you're being generous.
I know, but the deal is, you could when they asked you to put up, well, what are you going to do? Question mark. Right. For the whole hour. But that's what makes the show go. That's why it is so unique. And I've heard so many people say, well, and I think even your bosses have probably said from the home office,
right?
We don't know really how this works, but somehow it works.
Yeah.
And how does it work? And why does it work here?
Well, one of the things I will say is that while we very loosely come to the beginning of that show and what are we going to talk about? He will say, what's our lead? And there have been a couple of days I'm like, stop asking me that. We'll figure it out. The amount of information, the fire hose to the face of information that we take in every single minute of every single day in preparation for that show would be mind-blowing to most people.
Yeah.
So I think people like to romanticize that we just show up and we don't know what we're doing. And
we have a general outline.
But and even this year, Frank, I'll tell you, I started to pull back from the 24/7 Twitter
news
Facebook,
cycle,
because at some point it is so toxic to your brain to be in that swamp as often as we are, where it just never stops. I refuse to watch political coverage. I refuse to watch it. So when there are wildfires, my God, those poor people in California, the plane crash this last week, we are immersed in that stuff just every second of every minute of every day. And so do I walk out the door at 6:00? Hell yes, I do, for my own sanity. Do I run straight home and watch the news anymore? No, for my own sanity. And then my other rule is, do not call me between 6 and 6:30. And you know this. You get off the set and you've been talking. How many words did we say in 1 year? We looked at this yesterday.
Yeah, I don't remember 1 year.
We looked at the words. Someone broke down the words. Yeah. It's so much words. Whatever it is, it's more words than any person has ever spoken ever. And we've made a great living doing words. Well, I don't have any more words after 6 o'clock. Do not call me. If it was Tom Watson, maybe I would take that call. I would maybe take that call. But do not call me.
Sam did the math last night, and in the 13 years that we've been together, we just entered our 14th together, we have spoken 97 million words.
Good Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Yeah.
How the heck do you break something?
90 million was her, 7 million.
Yeah, 7 million. Sure.
Half of that was me telling him, have you lost your mind?
And is the cackle one word or 6? I'm not sure.
Well, we're 3.5 maybe.
Together.
I'll tell you a funny story though, Frank. You were asking about our bosses wondering, how does this show succeed? This was several years ago, and Dana and I were doing something goofy on the air, and we went to commercial break, and I didn't know this, but our boss was right outside the door, but he had his back turned to the door. He was talking to somebody in the newsroom, and I opened the door, and it's a pretty quiet door. It's a big blast door, soundproof, and he's talking to this lady. It was Rebecca, and I hear him say, "I have no idea how this show gets ratings." And
this was sales.
This was our boss.
Oh, this
our
is your
program
boss.
director.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Alan First. And I hear him say, "I have no idea how this show gets ratings." And I go,
I heard that.
I go, "I'm standing right behind you." And he turns around and goes, I don't know how the show gets ratings.
Yeah, it's.
And I only think, too, if you really think about it, and everybody else says, well, it would only work here. Now, you're a native Kansan. You've never left the state, I don't think, okay?
Nope.
Born in Emporia. And Sarah wanted me to ask, what hospital were you born in Emporia?
Is it Newman? Newman.
Okay, the new one. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Because Sarah was born in the old state.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Well, I've never left Emporia, and then
Yeah,
KU,
you went to,
and then Gray Village, and then Leawood, and now I'm in Lenexa. I'm just like boom, boom, boom,
yeah,
boom, boom.
right. So
Yeah.
you never left. You were an Army brat, okay? And you were born in Fort Benning, Georgia, I think. Yep. And Texas, Alaska, Kansas, and?
I think I lived in Germany once. A long time ago, but I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Every day. I remember when I was in Germany, I said, how many years did Scott spend
Okay,
in
so
Germany?
finally one day, here's a behind-the-scenes story. Finally one day, we go to break, and I just go, all right, I'm going to say it. You got to stop talking about Germany. You're not allowed to say it anymore.
I don't say the word on the air.
I don't want to hear it. Everyone knows that you lived in Germany. But we all have those things, I think, even when we were journalists. And I will say this, we have now a combined 60 years covering news in this town. Are we at 60 years?
Yeah, we're right on it.
We're right at 60 years.
Yeah.
So there are very few things that we don't understand, know about, remember, or have someone in our Rolodex that we can call if we don't.
Exactly.
Just like you, Frank, you've been in this town. I don't want to say 100 years. You're not that old, but you're knocking at the door. You're knocking at the door of 40, 50 years covering stuff in this town.
I'll be 50 years next February 1st. Not just from this town, just totally in the business.
So, and you know this, with that comes a bulk of bizarre knowledge where you can say, don't you remember back in 1995? You know,
well, she does that more than, she's got a brain that remembers the weirdest things.
Except Scott. True story. We were at KU's journalism school together. I have no memory of him. I have no recollection of him. I'm sure we had classes together.
Well,
he was
a couple
much
years,
older than I was.
I was a couple years ahead of you.
But usually the J school is a pretty small thing.
Yeah.
We look back at that and we're like, were we ever in class together? We don't remember it. I think that you were on the radio track. Yeah. I was on the television track. And back then they separated newspaper completely out. And so I think we probably were there. And
but you would probably have been either a freshman or a sophomore when I was a senior would be my guess.
Yeah, it took him much longer to graduate.
That's not true.
Jeez. She's
She's
bad.
mean.
She is mean.
She's mean.
You know, she has a big laugh. And, she's so fun. She's mean as spit.
She's a viper. Like a little viper.
Okay, so when did you officially get to know it? I know you worked at you worked in Topeka first, but you worked at KCTV for years. You were an investigative reporter. She was the one jumping out of bushes with a microphone. Where were you on the night of the 14th?
We met at an Amber Alert, I think, years and years ago.
And you were working for?
I've been at KMBZ for almost 30 years.
Right, that's what I thought.
And there was an Amber Alert in Kansas City, Missouri, and everybody raced over there. There was a little kid, confirmed missing. Nobody knew where the kid was. And we're all outside waiting. Kid was had fallen asleep in a closet while playing hide and seek with their brother or sister.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the first time.
And I remember we asked, are we sure this kid ain't in the house? Right. Yep, there she was. I think that was one of the first stories. You know this in this town. You end up covering stories with everybody. We all end up being friends, which, like, pro tip for the audience, don't ever go up to a journalist in this town and say, I can't stand that Frank. Like, we all know each other. Like, we've all been doing this a long time.
There are a lot of people who can't stand Frank Bolton.
I'm just saying, you hear that from time to time. And I've got a buddy in this business who will say, can you imagine if you were like a plumber and someone went up to you and said, I can't stand plumbers. But we do get that, and it drives me crazy. And I always say, you know what, I'm going to stop you right there. You know,
he's a friend.
The handful of us that have been in this town a long time and lucky enough to be doing what we love in this town for a long time, we all know each other. Like, we swap Christmas cards.
Oh, sure. So, absolutely. Yeah.
It's a small, bizarre fraternity.
Yeah. And I remember when I first met you, when I didn't know you had this personality. okay, for the radio personality like this, you were really serious. I mean, you were so. I mean, you never
I was
smiled.
Arms
you were
folded. Investigative reporter.
I was going, who the hell?
Right, I know, right? Well, that's
Takes herself too seriously.
Who is that viper?
It took like 2 years for me to even consider the possibility of jumping over to radio. I remember thinking and it was Scott that asked, took me out and said, we think you'd be a good fit. I said, that is the dumbest idea I have ever heard in my entire life.
That was 6 years before you made the jump.
I just thought, why would, A, it wouldn't work, B, and with all respect, I have always called, at that point in life, talk radio was old, angry, white guy radio. Mm-hmm. And I say that.
Scott.
Yeah. Scott, my father. I say that with
That's
love.
a double team.
I had listened to that show, and it seemed to me a bunch of people screaming about, like, Ronald Reagan. I don't even know what they were screaming, but it was a lot of yelling, and I don't like yelling. And my dad loved it, and he and I don't agree necessarily politically. And I thought, I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah.
And Scott, over a very long period of time, kept saying, just trust me. Yeah. It'll work if you just trust me.
Well, so you were already doing talk radio, okay? Yeah, you were with Mike Shannon, right?
Shannon,
yes.
That's right.
It was Shannon and Parks for a long period of time.
It was very political.
Very political.
It was too political.
What happened to that? Was that what happened with the show?
No, I mean, Mike was 75. I mean, he
I knew he was older.
Yeah. And then what ended up happening, this was in the winter of 2011 into 2012. And they kept flying in potential co-hosts. And Mike would just take a day off, right? And to Dana's point, it was angry white guy after angry white guy. And they would put him up in some hotel and fly him in, fly him out. And I knew Mike was going to retire, so in my contract I had installed a veto clause that I could veto anybody they brought in if I didn't like them.
That's a nice clause.
It was smart. Only other than getting her on the show, the only smart thing I've ever done. But they were probably 5 guys, and it was all men, and they were about 5 deep, and I went down in the first segment. This guy was yelling at me. He was from New Jersey, and he's just yelling and yelling and yelling. And we go to break at 2:15. I go, why are you yelling at me? And I went straight downstairs, walked into our general manager's office. He turns around from his desk. He's listening to the show, and he goes, wow, this is awesome. I slam my hand on his desk. I go, veto. He goes, in my office at 6:05. I thought I was going to get fired. So I end up going downstairs after the show, and he goes, we have flown in 5 people. This is costing us a mint. What do you want? And I said, I want Dana Wright from Channel 5. He goes, the anchor chick?
He goes, the news lady?
Yeah. And I said, yes. I said, I'm bored with political radio. I want to do life on the radio. And he said, it'll never work. It'll never work. I said, it's new. It's going to be different. It'll never work. And I use this analogy, and I'm sure Dana's sick of hearing it. I said, when David Lee Roth left Van Halen, they did not go out and get a David Lee Roth sound-alike. They got Sammy Hagar. They changed the sound. And guess what? They sold millions of more records. I said, it's time to change the sound of the show. And then that was the easy part, was convincing him. The hard part was convincing her.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get the timeline. I know this is your 14th year as we speak. And you're moving towards 15 years. And that's amazing for a talk show like this to have lasted all that time without somebody coming in. I'm going to change everything. You know what I mean? It's because your ratings are so good of what you do. But how long did it take you? Was Mike still working? Were you? I don't remember the transition of how long did it take. I know it took you 6 years to talk her into it, but how long were you without her before you got? How long before Dana and Parks?
Well, she joined on January 30th of 2012.
Okay.
So,
I couldn't even tell you that. I don't track dates or where my car is located. And then on top of that, Frank, it was another year.
Yeah, till we got our letters.
I just remember saying to him, what are we doing?
Okay.
Like, what are we doing here? You know, I went from, stay inside the lines. As a journalist, you can't have an opinion, and all the things that I used to get yelled at for thinking and then saying, they were now saying, say more of those things. Yeah. All the things on the anchor desk you never could say, like, that guy's an idiot. They now were like, oh, say that, right? And so it just took a while to find my legs where I could say, and I've always said this, if the audience is thinking it and you're thinking it, like, say it. Because that's what everybody's thinking.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
It took about a year until we got to where we were comfortable, I think.
So what did you do?
She quit 6 times in the first year. Literally, she would just walk up and go,
at
"That's
1
it,
minute
I quit."
after 6, I quit.
I'm out.
Sometimes we didn't even get to
This
6.
is so stupid. Why are we doing this?
And she would get up and she goes, I'm done. This sucks. I quit. And I kept telling her, please stay. Just stay. We're going to be great. We will be number one. I promise you we'll be number one someday. And she stayed. And
Yeah, you're number one.
I can't really talk about the ratings a lot, but she stayed and we did okay.
You're number one. So I can talk about it. I can do whatever I want. Nobody.
Your
Your show.
podcast.
My boss is sitting right over here, by the way. But I can say whatever I want within reason. All right. But I think the reason it really works too for me is you have opened your lives up to the people out there. There's so many people that think people on radio or people on TV or whatever. They're sort of untouchable, not really, but nothing bad ever happens to them. Yeah. Oh, they live in a mansion on a hill. They're all driving Teslas. Whatever they do, but no, they go on vacation for a month in Cancun and they're living the life of Raleigh. And that's not true. I mean, everybody you see every day, everywhere has an issue. I don't care how rich, how poor,
period,
whatever. And that's what you talk about. The people out there relate to the fact they've got the same problems I've got.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to listen to what they have to say about how they dealt with their problems. I know, Scott, you're very open about your alcoholism and your dependence on that and how you end up saving his life after intervention and, having a relapse. I mean, you're talking about, marriages and relationships
Well,
and things.
We probably talk a lot about marriage because
We've
we're
done
failures.
it so many times.
Hold it. Here's the deal, too. No,
I mean,
all right.
I mean, the day ain't over yet.
We suck
Frank.
at it. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, I know you are. Here's the best. So it was the other day I'm listening, and you are trying to renew either your driver's license or your passport, and she goes to you, I don't know what last name I'm going to use. And I went, what?
I'm a TSA nightmare.
I said, well, how many last names do you have?
I'm a TSA nightmare.
She's changed her name more than John Mellencamp.
Old John Cougar, yeah, you're absolutely
There's
right.
very little that we
Oh my
will
gosh.
not bring up on the radio. And especially now that our kids are adults, we will even talk a little bit more about the kids in a way that we weren't comfortable probably doing it when they were growing up. But yeah, here's the deal. It goes back to the political talk. When you're out with friends, Frank, or with your wife, or with whoever, most people are not sitting around woe is meing about what's going on in Washington. And if you are, that's fine. I'm probably not going to have a burger with you and hang out and have a glass of wine.
I'm not going to sit here and be miserable.
Most people are literally talking about, oh my God, I went and saw the doctor the other day because my anxiety is like off the chart right now. I'm feeling really anxious. I started doing acupuncture this year. Like you start talking like, holy crap, the price of eggs. Like seriously, $15.52. Like that's the life that I want people living in and talking about. Like what is going on with your kids? How are you? How are you feeling? Yeah. Like how is work? Like all that stuff.
We just do it on the air.
Is relatable. We just do it on the air.
Yeah. And then they relate to you because they all have the same problems.
I tried working out. I should not have. I'm a golfer. You know that. You will never see me running unless someone is chasing me with an axe, Frank. You know that. And I tried working out for the first. I thought I'm going to get in shape. Pulled a what's this called?
Groin.
The groin, the oblique. You name it. It's shredded in there. Yeah. You know, I'm a 50-year-old woman, Frank. What the hell am I doing trying to? I'm going to go to the gym this year. That I do believe is relatable for a lot of people.
I think so.
The injury that followed, not so much, but like stuff like that happens and has happened, and we talk about it.
Yeah, that's why I worry about it in the pickleball situation too.
Oh gosh,
that's not a sport to
mess around
play
with.
when you're 50-ish or more.
She doesn't think I should play it anymore.
Yeah. You know what? I'm sort of in her. I've got an ortho that says
don't do it.
Oh,
you know who
it
loves
is an
pickleball?
orthopedic.
The orthopedic surgeons love pickleball.
They call it the orthopedic annuity.
Yeah, they do.
They say it's the greatest sport ever invented. Man, this is great.
They probably invented it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then I'm not even playing pickleball. I ruptured my Achilles tendon playing golf.
Yeah,
because I ended up stepping in a hole somewhere. So you can get hurt anywhere. And then you talk about weight loss and all the other stuff.
I've been up. I've been down. I'm the Oprah of without the money or the fame or the notoriety of weight loss. Like there will be photos that come up of me like 3 years ago. Well, I said this to Scott the other day. I go, oh my God. And he goes, this was off the air. And he goes, what? And I go, look at this photo. And it was, I don't know, 4 years ago or something. And you know how like something happens in your life very gradually and you might not see it.
We got ranked by Barrett Media, 8th best talk show in America or something, I don't know. And I sent her a screen grab of my computer screen with our 8th place and everything. And the picture was 7 years old. And she immediately calls me, or FaceTimes me. And she was mad.
I was pissed we were 8th place.
First, she was mad that we were ranked 8th.
It was 1 through 7.
Yeah. And then she
in
goes,
the country.
And then she didn't scream at me, but with a raised voice goes, and get that picture changed. I look terrible.
Hey, bottom line, you better
That's
scream.
a little bit of the TV data. Rearing its head.
Exactly right. You're exactly right. Yeah. But you had your ups and downs. You know, you talked about a lot about having to go to rehab or whatever. What do you mind talking about? What triggered all that? I mean,
sure. I've always been a heavy drinker. I've never had a social drink in my life. And during COVID, when we got sent home, it really started to ramp up pretty bad. And and then right at the end of 2000, I was like, this is enough. I can't keep doing this. And I got sober. And I can't really talk about how I got sober.
That's fine.
They don't allow that. But I was sober for about 2.5 years. The best 2.5 years of my life, I was on top of the world. I was with a wonderful woman. The show was off the chart. My kids were doing great. And after about 6 years, she left. We had just moved in together, had been living together for a year and a half, 2 years. And one day, and for reasons I still don't know, she just up and left. And the worst thing for an alcoholic, even a recovering one, is boredom and loneliness. And here I am in this big old house all by myself. The kids are gone, and I fell apart. I just fell apart. And I just started drinking more and more and not doing the things that I had been taught, the things I knew I had to do.
Yeah, the right and wrong of it.
And Dana was the first to recognize that something was wrong. And because, I spend more hours awake with her than I do with any other human being. Yeah. And that's a fact. And she could see that I was falling apart. And she approached me about it in the back office, and she said, I'm not going to do a show with an active alcoholic. I'm just not going to do it. And, like any alcoholic, I said, I'll try to get better. I'll try to get better. Well, you can't do it on your own. You just can't. And she contacted my brother, if I'm not mistaken. And it was one Sunday in September of 2023, and there was somebody who was going to come over and watch the Chiefs game with me. It was a 3:25 start. And I was in my office, which is right off from the kitchen, and I was drunk. And the door opened at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I heard it close, the door from the garage. And I thought, man, she's early for the game. It doesn't start for 2.5 hours. I walk out into the living room. Sorry if this story is too long. And my brother, my mother, and my 2 daughters are sitting there. And I just walked in, and nobody was happy to see me, and nobody was laughing. And I said, I knew this day would come. Thank God it did. Yeah. I'm about to get emotional.
You're allowed.
So I sat down, and they went through, every one of them spoke. And I just said, I'm not going to effing rehab. I'm not going to do it. That'll leave Dana alone for 30 days. She'll quit the show. I won't have a show to come back to. And my youngest daughter, she was the last one to speak, and I kept saying, I'm not going to rehab. And Maya said, Dad, you're my best friend and you're my hero. If you don't go to rehab, don't call me again. And I told my brother, start the car.
And then he said on the way, can we stop by Dana's house so I can kill her?
No. Well,
it's in all honesty, because alcoholism is ugly, it is nasty, it affects everybody around you in a way that I didn't even realize at the time.
Well, you're a wrecking ball. You're a human wrecking ball.
And it was destroying everything around him. It was, and God, I was mad. There were a couple of fights in that
That's the only time we ever fought.
During commercial breaks. There was one day I will never forget. He said, I can say anything I want to on this podcast, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I'm just going to tell you.
This is going to get ugly.
He goes, I am so sick of your shit. And I turned around, Frank, and I go, are you fucking kidding me? You don't get to say that to me. I am so sick of your shit. And papers were flying. I was like, I quit. No, I don't. Fuck you, you quit. I go to walk out. Sam is on the other side of the glass, and you can't really see. It's kind of a fishbowl. You just see Sam do this. And I walked out. And he goes, fine, walk out. And I go, fine, have fun doing this show on your own.
You know, if you take away the first year where, there were some fights early on, not knockdown blowout fights, but there were some arguments. The only time we've really had a knockdown drag out fight was over my drinking.
Yeah.
Because what I said was, and I still say, I'm not going to be the one that you don't show up to work, which has not happened in 30 years. Right. He's never missed a day. And I go to that house, and you're dead inside that house, and I've got to pick up the phone and call your daughters, and I know it's going to be me that has to. I know it's going to be me. And I'm not going to put your mom through that. I'm not going to. And that's where it started that, like, let's have the conversation. We're all screwed up. Everybody's got something going on. I wish to God this was not your thing. I've got my own things. Everybody has their own things. I wouldn't wish what he's been through on my worst enemy. Right. I just wouldn't.
You know what's funny, though? And I would call her from rehab, once or twice a week. And I said it when I got back, that she did, you saved my life. You know it, and everybody knows it. But it's weird. I would call her, and you get 2 hours a day where they give you your cell phone. And there's a corded wall phone that you can use 24 hours a day. But everybody has to have access to it, right? So you don't talk for very long. And I've thought this a lot. I don't want to go back, but I would love to go back. I'm not going to do the work it takes to have to go back. But I enjoyed being in rehab. I actually enjoyed it. I never thought I would say that.
For what?
I love the structure. I made some good friends. Like for the Super Bowl this Sunday, two of the people that are coming over were in rehab with me. We stayed friends.
Right. It's the discipline of it. Yeah. It's being with like people.
Sure.
I'm sure. And everybody's trying to do the same thing.
Yeah. And it's not easy. I had to go to 6 classes a day, 8 hours a day. It's a full-time job. And it's 7 days a week. You don't get a day off, ever. So 7 days a week, 6 classes a day. Some of them went 2 hours, some went 1 hour. And that's all you do.
But the beauty of being, I think, as horrifying as that snapshot in time was, the beauty of being on the air and having the great privilege of having the microphone every day is that people have called in and said that Scott saved their life. Finally, but they will say that, and he's very uncomfortable with that, but they will say, until I heard you talk about it and everything that you went through and what that felt like and what it looked like I thought I was the only one, or I didn't think I could make the call and go to rehab. We've had people reach out to the show, I need help. Can you point me in a direction? And we're happy to do it. And so, it's not all joking about farts, and
it's a lot of joking about farts, and then we talk about our anxiety and drinking.
right. But it gives.
And then we go back to farts.
Right, and then her getting some benign subject over to sex somehow too. So talking about the price of eggs, and next thing you know, you're over here.
Right.
How'd we get?
I know.
Scott's going, okay. How many times you had to say that on you?
You're all right.
All right. That's enough. But
you got that down.
Oh God,
right.
yes,
Okay.
Absolutely. But for you sharing, I mean, number one, thanks for being open. You called me. He called me last night before this and said, "Hey, I'm an open book." Because we always say if there's something you don't want to talk about, that's fine.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm an open book, and we can talk about whatever you want. And to share that, and to have other people out there think about it, and then do the thing of themselves to try to make that step that they can never make. Look, Scott Parks did it. Okay, radio guy's doing all this. He's got a couple kids. He's got Sarah and Maya, and the kids are doing so well, and he really tried to do it. And I think you wanted to go back into the structure again, because during COVID you're all by yourself, except for when and then you go home, you're all by yourself, and then you're all by yourself.
Well, we were doing the show from our respective homes.
Yes, right. You weren't even in the studio.
It didn't work.
No, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Can you imagine trying to have this conversation, but you're like over there behind a curtain, but I've got a photograph of you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, Frank, how was your day? You know, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But that these are the things that people relate to, and I think that is the reason the show works. And the show works, number two, you really like each other. You really wanted her on. She didn't want to be on. Now you're, saved your life, you're best friends, the whole thing. Yeah. And the reason this show, they don't have a show like this in other markets is because they don't have a couple people, Kansans and Kansas Cityans and the whole thing together and knowing, almost the same age and the whole thing. They just don't have that. They have a guy, like you said, bringing a guy in from New Jersey, another guy in from Boston. Well, they're not going to relate, you know. They're not going to talk about things like this.
You can't just grab two people off the street, throw them in a studio, and say, make great radio, And maybe I'm complimenting us to make good radio.
Yeah.
Okay. But we have what you can't buy, and that's chemistry.
Yeah.
You can't buy it. There's no price. And, I love Dana Wright. I hope she likes Scott Parks.
Scott, she's not going to change her name again.
No.
Okay, so
no, not
forget
that
about
way.
the Parks.
Not that way.
Okay, fine. All right. I'm just checking.
So our 13th year or 14th, whatever the number is, he brings a card in, which I thought was very sweet. It was like my anniversary date of working there. And the card said, 13 years, who would have thought, I love you, Scott. Yeah. And that day, for whatever reason, I go back into our office, which is just a trough of crap. The office is just a mess. And I go back and I start straightening up the office. Just on the same day I get this card.
I don't know her anymore.
I'm going through old stuff and throwing this out and photos, and I come across another card. He's got very specific handwriting. And it was another card from Scott. And I open it. Swear to God, last week this happened. And it said, this was maybe 10 years ago. Yep. It says, Dana, went to the store but couldn't find a card that said, I'm sorry for being such an asshole.
So I'm sorry for being
such an asshole, Scott. And I came out laughing, and I go, here's the card on the left and the card on the right. I go, what did you do?
I don't even
Neither
remember.
one of us can remember.
I don't remember writing the card.
Funniest card I've ever seen in my entire life. Couldn't find a card.
So I got it was just a blank card.
Yeah, sure, you did yourself. Yeah.
Couldn't find a card
that
said
like
sorry for being an
dragonfly
asshole.
on the front, like the kind you would send after a funeral, know?
Yeah.
Oh my God, we laughed.
Oh gosh, but that's all part of it,
Yeah.
And you were talking, and I was talking about the relationship and being, because you're both from this area as well. Talk about the kids a little bit, Sarah and Maya, and I know how proud you are of those little urchins.
Yeah.
They're not little urchins
They
anymore.
never played a game of soccer that I didn't coach, which I'm proud of that. I adore them. I absolutely adore them. Sarah graduated KU 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. Works for a PR firm in Westport. Maya is very expensive. She's training to be a pilot.
She's the youngest.
She is. She's training to be a pilot at Central Missouri. And you want to feel your sphincter get real tight. Go watch your daughter take off in a plane with nobody else in it.
Yeah.
I've never been so nervous in all of my life. And I went down there with my mom. This was, what is this? Probably May of last year. And there is nothing more scary than watching your kid take off in a plane by herself.
Yeah,
she's great.
She wants to be a commercial pilot.
She does.
She's not training for military.
No, I encouraged her to do that, but she said no. She wanted to be a commercial pilot. So. Yeah, but I adore them. I absolutely adore them.
It would have been a lot less expensive to go to the Air Force Academy because it's basically
I'm aware,
free.
Frank. I'm aware.
It's free, and then the kid owes the Air Force like 5 years at least. Okay, would have been free. That's okay. Never mind.
So this is going to take up the rest of the show. She's got 4 kids.
Yeah, she has.
Well, it all started back in no, they're all now adults, and it's so fun having it. You know this. There's something about having adult children that are just good human beings.
Yeah.
Good human beings.
Yeah.
And my oldest is working and completely on his own. No debt, no college debt.
Okay, what's he doing?
He just left Tesla and went over to Shamrock.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Loves it. Ryan,
Good
Shamrock,
for him. Yeah.
Absolutely loves it. Bunch of kids his age.
He's moving America.
That is
moving
exactly
goods
what he's
in
doing.
America. There's
Working
God
with truck
bless
drivers.
those tractor trailer drivers.
Oh, it's amazing. Daughter is just graduated pre-med, getting ready to go to PA school.
Wow.
Second daughter, junior at KU. And then my baby just turned 18. And
The smart one?
Yep, broke my heart and left for K-State, and I'm still adjusting.
Smart one.
I mean,
You love KU so
I know,
much.
that's
too.
so cute.
And when I heard your youngest,
you want to go where?
I went. There's the youngest.
Not with my
There's
money.
the rebel.
That's
There's
the
the
youngest who
rebels
very
right
quietly just went, guess where I'm going? And he is in construction management and loves it.
there. Yeah.
And I have one black shirt with a tiny little like wildcat. I said, you
You're
gotta
awful.
You gotta ease me into
his
the purple.
mom.
No, I know. I love it. I freaking love it. My first mom's weekend is in April. Bar the door. I am so excited because he is so happy. Have you ever met anyone that went to K-State and said, oh boy, that sucked? No, they all just love K-State. And so I'm in.
Two of mine.
I'm absolutely
Two of mine
in.
are K-Staters. Yeah, my
Oh, he
oldest
loves
and
it.
my
It's
other daughter.
been a great experience.
And my youngest daughter's in Mizzou.
that's
now
too
see,
bad.
that was a non-starter.
That's a non-starter.
We
yeah.
had no KUs, zero KUs.
Yeah.
In fact,
they
Lauren,
couldn't get
Lauren
in?
wanted to do broadcast journalism. I didn't do a thing. I just said I asked them all because I went to Villanova. So I asked them all. I said, "You went to Villanova?" And my oldest one goes, "I don't want to work that hard."
Villanova,
Thanks
a lot of money, really hard.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's
So-
funny, like the 6 of those children. I don't want to say there's nothing wrong with them, but damn, there's nothing wrong with them.
yeah.
We did something right.
He and
Yeah,
I,
you did.
not to pat ourselves on the back, but I think as parents, you look back and you think, God, I did this and I did this, and did I do enough? That is a universal parental. Did I do enough? Did I love enough? Did I, all of those things, and they're fine. I don't even hear from the little one. I'm like, do you need money? Can I come? Do you need Venmo? Like, he is just on his own, and I'm like, I can't even be on my own. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, somehow that DNA just worked out. They can find their own cars when they park.
Truest words I've heard so far.
Yeah.
Oh boy, yeah. And they sort of, after a while, and as they do get even older, they'll steer you back.
Yeah.
They just have a tendency to know the exact right thing to say, to steer you sort of back
absolutely.
on the right path if you straight.
It's beautiful. I just absolutely love
It's
having
great.
adults.
And your thoughts about? There's just something about Kansas City.
I want to say congratulations because everyone I know wants to have a podcast, and very few people I know
Do it right.
have done it right.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can thank my boss.
Oh, you have done. We were so honored and humbled just to be invited to do this. But, if I had a dime for every person that said to us, I think I want to start a podcast.
Oh, God.
You just go, oh, honey.
I want to start a
I wanna
blog.
I want to start a blog about fitness. I'm like, you go do that.
Good luck.
Yeah.
It is a lot harder than it looks, and it is so much work, and you've done it right. And I mean, I could not imagine having a better guest for your first show here.
Oh, Scott? Yeah, he's sitting
Glad to be here, Frank.
He said,
Thanks for the
Frank,
invite.
he said, Frank, you have to ask her. After I said, but Scott, I
That
just
is
want
not.
you have to ask her.
Don't start that.
It's so good.
Yeah,
love
but just about, not just about the podcast, but just about KC itself.
Oh,
So.
I know he also would say this. We all in this business have had opportunities to go other places. And not only now can I not imagine myself anywhere else except maybe Phoenix a few weeks out of the year or Palm Desert a few weeks out of the year when we retire, which at some point we have to talk about. I can't imagine living anywhere else. And now that the children are adults, man, I can't imagine them living anywhere else. I'm like, please stay. It's so great here, and everyone likes to talk about the Chiefs and what that has done for the town, and it has certainly changed this town. Everybody's got a swagger. Fiscally, you know this. The city is different. You could not have even anticipated all of the great things that have flown from that team. But this town is so much more than that.
Yeah, it really started I think it started back in 2014.
Yeah.
That's about 10 or 11 years ago, right? It started back when the Royals started to finally regain their ground. They go to back-to-back World Series and win one. We got an all-star game. And then all of a sudden we've got the
draft.
Chiefs.
Yeah.
And we get the draft. And now the World Cup's coming in 2026, which will be absolutely just incredible.
We are now the epicenter of women's sports.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
I went for KC event this week. They brought Caitlin Clark in.
I know. Yeah.
And this is just an incredible time to be alive here, and so enjoy it. Don't tell many more people. We like it.
Yeah, let's keep the secret.
We don't want to be Nashville where you wake up one day and you can't get anywhere from point A to point B.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I love this town, and I will never, ever leave here. With respect to employment, certainly I'm never leaving. I mean, at this point, Scott, we're kind of stuck with each other, I think.
Yeah, we're locked.
And you?
I'll make it quick.
You don't have to make it quick.
When I was 16 years old, I was living in a country I can't talk about. And we knew it was the day that my dad was getting his orders and where we were going next. And it was going to be our last stop. We knew that. And my mom was really hoping to get Texas, Fort Hood, Texas again. And my dad comes home, and we're sitting at the dinner table, and everybody's just wondering, where are we going? And he goes, got the orders today, guys. And I go, okay. He goes, Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. And I looked across the table, and I go, who did you piss off? And he goes, no, this is a great assignment, but we knew it was going to be our last. And in the military, you stay where you stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when I first got here in the summer of '87, to be honest with you, I didn't like it. I didn't like Leavenworth. I didn't like Lansing. I came to Kansas City a couple times and wasn't a fan. But by the time I went to college at Nebraska, I was homesick, and I couldn't wait to come home. And so I transferred to KU, and I never wanted to leave after that. I wanted to stay in Kansas City. I love this town.
I, too, never wanted to leave KU.
Well,
I
said
know
Kansas
that.
City.
You know
I
what?
said Kansas City.
You know what? You haven't. All right, I
kidding.
see the
Oh,
I
my
see
God.
the
Greatest
posts.
city in the world.
I see the posts of the parties with the kids. Don't start, okay?
But no, it's just this town just grew on me so quickly, and I just love it here. The only time I thought about leaving was in 2005. I had a great offer in Dallas, and I went down there, interviewed for hours and hours, flew home with a contract in my hand that I said, I'll sign it and mail it to you. And I put it on the kitchen counter, and I never looked at it. I never read it.
Wow.
And I said, I threw it in the trash. And I called the guy, and he hung up on me when I told him I wasn't coming. I said, I just can't leave Kansas City. Click.
So I know sometimes it's taken out of our hands, but how long do you two want to take this thing?
We are just now starting to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because, you know this, Frank, you can't go forever. You want to leave
At the top.
You want to leave at the top. You don't want to overstay your welcome. But I also can't imagine doing anything else. I mean, I do a couple of little things on the side, but this is still a hell of a lot of fun every day. And
Well, you don't really have a job.
No, I
when
mean,
you really
it's-
think about it.
Yeah, I
you
love
know?
it. The kids just think we just stumbled into this. By the way, they don't see the 20 years prior where you're getting up at midnight covering shootings and
Whatever
God knows
it
where.
is,
But I think we'll have to discuss that. We've got another
We've started talking
year
about it.
and a half to figure out.
Well, that's just
next-
on this current contract.
Yeah,
what the next contract looks like.
I'm
and-
sure they're going to re-up you.
We had a conversation on how many contracts do we think we have left. And, I want to go out like Barry Sanders. I want to go out on top and not where they're showing you the door. Saying, you know what, we think you did maybe 5 shows too many.
Yeah.
And maybe it's time to go.
Yeah.
I want Dana and me to be able to dictate the terms of when we leave, not somebody deciding it for us.
You don't want the buyout brown envelope dropped on your desk and say, Scott, I think you might want to look at that.
No.
Type deal, right?
No. But I joked the other day, what if we did 4 days a week, 3 hours a day?
She's been saying that for 14 years.
I mean, we could take a Friday off.
1 minute
She's
to
not
2,
joking.
1 minute after
Frank,
5
she's not
now.
joking.
We'll go
She's
golf.
gone.
It'll be
That's
great.
great. It'd be perfect. Yeah, summertime, and we still get 18 holes in
Yes.
before the sun went down. So, gosh.
I don't.
almighty.
You joke about that. I do.
Oh, I know you do. I've heard.
Summer is.
I've heard.
That's Dana time.
What do you do extracurricular outside of?
Well, when my toe's not broke, I do try to work out a lot.
Okay. I love the shoes, by the way, closed-toed.
Very
you.
comfortable.
Okay.
First
No
time in 3
socks.
weeks.
Orthopedic.
On,
No, I have socks on.
No, with the flip-flops.
Oh.
No socks with the flip-flops.
I'm seeing someone right now, so we spend a lot of time together. This is going to sound very old. I love to go on walks in the woods near my house. I love to work out. I watch way too much news,
He
way too
watches
much.
a lot of Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, I watch
Oh,
Wheel
I
of
know he
Fortune
got.
and
I,
news.
hey, he's ticked when everybody's doing all the cheese specials and Wheel of Fortune at 3 in the morning.
But
He's literally a 90-year-old guy.
I am in a 53-year-old body.
53-year-old man's body.
But the thing, and back to the show for a second, I think what makes it work so well is that we're so different. She's an extrovert, can't be alone, and I know this doesn't sound right, but I'm actually an introvert. And when there's a camera around me, I get nervous. She loves the camera.
Oh, yeah.
And
In 3,
and
2.
1.
can you left side or right side?
He used to joke the most
how am I
dangerous place in America is between
Dana
Dana Wright and a television.
Right. But Frank, when I was driving over here to your studio, I knew we were going to be on camera, and I couldn't find your studio because I'm dumb. But I remember saying out loud to myself, I'm actually nervous. I was nervous coming in here. And I haven't been nervous in front of a microphone in 30 years, you know? And
he doesn't like speeches and MC.
No.
Like, they'll ask, can you guys come MC this thing?
Yeah.
And he always says, that's Dana's deal. I don't like doing that stuff.
Okay.
I don't like it.
Because the microphone is a beautiful thing, Frank. You don't think when you're talking, certainly I don't ever, but you don't think when you're talking that there's 100,000 people.
Absolutely.
Or
not.
you wouldn't be able to do your job. Right. If you thought about that every single time, there's no way you would be able to do your job.
Right.
The way I look at it, it's just a conversation around a table of me and Dana. And
yeah. And instead of standing in front of a microphone with 350 or 500 people sitting
Staring
in front
at
of you,
you.
too, just,
right?
Okay, Scott.
Yeah.
I would panic.
It's a lot harder that way.
But, I like to be alone. I mean, I have to have human contact, of course. But I don't mind being at home alone and going for a walk by myself.
Yeah.
And
Stare at the ocean, I understand.
I do stare at the ocean.
Stare at the ocean.
Oh, yeah. Makes me feel small.
Yeah. Oh, really? And then have a little obsession about shirt tags?
Yes, I do, Frank. I do.
He's allergic to shirt tags.
Yeah,
I'm not allergic. I just hate them.
You hate
I don't know where it comes from.
Have you
I
ever walked up to a stranger and put their shirt tag
I've wanted
back?
to.
He won't touch it.
No, I won't touch
Oh,
it.
you
Yeah,
won't
he would have
touch
to
it.
touch it.
I thought it was the opposite way.
There's actually a word for this phobia.
It's true.
It doesn't have any vowels in it. It's one of those words where you're like, really? But there is a phobia of the shirt tag.
Well,
Look it up. He's got it.
we were doing a remote one time
bizarre
down in Leawood, and a guy walked into, it was at a bar, and a guy walked into the bar and handed me a necklace made out of shirt tags. I went into panic mode.
Anaphylactic shock.
I mean, I thought I was going to die. True story.
Okay. I know you have to get out of here, okay? You guys are very busy. Of course, you have the rest of the afternoon probably before you show up for work. I know Scott has to go in and do real things. He and Sam Stevie. And thanks, Sam Stevie, a lot. I know he's a very big part of the program. I understand
huge.
that as well.
Yeah.
But tell the story in Reader's Digest version. First time you ever met me.
Oh, yeah. It was 32 years ago. I was a junior senior at KU, and our assignment from Tom Volek was go interview two people whose job you want to take. My roommate was a guy named Jeff McCarriger, and he wanted to be either a weatherman or a sportscaster. I interviewed Skid Rohde from KY102.
Perfect.
And Phil Witt from Fox 4. And when Phil was second. And when I finished with him, I went looking for Jeff. And he interviewed Dan Henry and Frank Bowl. And I found him in the newsroom, and you guys were still talking. And I just sat in on the interview. And I thought to myself, I have never met a man who says the F word more times than Frank Bowl.
He's ruining my reputation and my brand. He's ruining my brand, right? Everybody thinks, oh, Frank. Oh, no. Oh, no, he's
That's
right.
a true story.
It is
Now,
true.
you swear you still remember that. I don't believe you.
No, I do. I remember Carricker, too, because he tried to get into business, and I hated interns anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, all the time, because they're trying to take my job.
Yeah.
I'm not going to. And Al Wallace, God bless him, he was terrific with him. He's a professor now at University of Kansas, teaching kids about the business, But I couldn't. The interns were somebody else's deal. And everybody's always asked me, because they know me like you know me, why did you never, ever drop the F-bomb on television? And I said, I guess I just compartmentalize it, and the camera comes on.
You know where the line is.
You just
know where that line is.
But that's exactly right. I was not nice that day. I never am. Anyway.
You were very funny.
Oh,
you were
really?
very funny.
You find that funny, did you?
I did.
You were like, nice to meet you. Now get the fuck out of here.
But I wasn't doing the interview.
Yes, exactly right. So, well, that's another reason that that we have you two in here. You know us so well, and you know me so well. We've known each other so well, and it's just. God bless you for coming in. It's just awesome.
God bless you.
Continue great luck. May you go out on your own terms in a business that rarely lets you ever go out on your own terms, because you deserve it because of all your great success.
Thank you.
Just who you are.
Honored to be here.
And remember, another couple reasons why it's just something about Kansas City.
There's Just Something About Kansas City is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization with the mission of documenting the stories that have built our city to inspire and educate generations to come. Our work is made possible by the generous support of local partners such as the Cockrell Family Foundation, the Bergman family, and the Sherman Family Foundation. For more information about how you can help us share these stories, visit our website at somethingaboutKC.org. Thank you.